Hello, everybody. It's Wildman Z here for our 12th, I believe, edition of the Library Tour 2022, showing all my books from my various book carts and shelves and boxes and wherever else I have them. Probably get a chunk of them. I may not get all of them. Here's a really cool little book. It's Birds, a Golden Guide. This is pretty old. It's from the 1980s. I think I had this when I was a teenager and I left it with my mother and she kept it. It has only about 125 or so birds, and they're the common ones, but they're nice. I mean, some of them might actually help you. Like when you have, even though they're common, they look similar. Like these sparrows, I see all three of these species here on Long Island. We have the chipping sparrow. He has like a solid little crown. Then there's very closely white crowned and white throated. They're similar, except the white throated has a white throat and a white crown, and the white crown is strictly a white crown. And he's also usually a little bigger, just a tad, not a big difference. These two are really hard to distinguish, a purple and a house finch, and they mix together. I don't know if they hybridize, but they'll be right next to each other, and it's really hard to tell the difference. They've sort of exaggerated how red this guy is and how raspberry-ish she is. Sometimes they're very closely colored. This is more of like this is great for, like, I would think, for kids or people new to birds, if they still make this, or if you pick up a used copy, because sometimes you get the big book and it has hundreds and hundreds of birds in it. You may only see the same 100 or so birds around your yard. This is a really good one too. Let me show this one first. Actually, this is Field Guide to Birds of North America. This is by National Geographic Society. It has a variety of artists in here. Really nice. It's very threadbare. I've had it 30 years or so. There are all the screech owls. There's a whole bunch of color morphs of them. I see the red one here all the time and a brownish gray one. I think they go through speciation's a challenging thing. I think they're considered the same species now, but different color morphs, and they can interbreed freely. The jays, where I'm at right now, we only have the blue jay. That's a Steller's jay, it looks like. That's a western bird. When I was in Vermont, I would sometimes see the gray jay or the Canada jay. This is guy over here. They're all very smart birds. I mean, you watch jays. I'll play a game with them. I'll put a peanut under a leaf, and then the blue jay will turn the leaf over. And then I'll go out there and do a little fake out, and then he'll come and check it. And then I'll do the fake out again. He won't check it. He'll be like, it's a game. they get the idea of game and so forth. The Peterson guide. This is if you have one field guide, I would get either the Sibleys, which I showed last time and the time before, and the Peterson field guide. Peterson's kind of the classic one. He's he's the pioneer of this drawing animals. I mean, here are the flicker like woodpeckers. Really, really nicely done. Bald eagle. You'll notice the bald eagle has it's not a morphology, it's really a color phase associated with his aging, where he's solid brown, could easily be mistaken for a bald eagle. Excuse me, a golden eagle at a distance. I see bald eagles now. I never saw them on Long Island before, but the last year or two I've been seeing them around my house, flying over. I don't live far from the beach. Here are the egrets, which, there's a lot of similarity in those species, and it's nice. And he'll point out the little field marks on it. He'll have the little arrows that they show, like by the beak. Those are all ways of identifying differences amongst closely related species. So, you see here on this tern's head, he'll have the little arrow, and it'll indicate that bare spot, let's say, is unique to that type of a tern, or sometimes it's gender specific or what have you. But these field marks are useful when you're identifying very similar birds. Similarly, another thing that's really challenging to tell the difference over plants, and so this is his field guide for wildflowers. There's also one I have upstairs, I think, for deciduous plants. And this is really nice. I take this outside all the time, and it has the common flowers. It's not all in color, but a lot of it is. So these are, they go by sort of color schemes and so forth, not necessarily relations. Although these guys are wild orchids. And, it's really nice. And I see a lot of flowers going around here. That I don't know. Like, actually went outside last year and identified. I said, wow, that's dulcea. It's the Jimson weed. It's a hallucinogenic plant, which is interesting because sometimes the deer eat something outside and they act like they're having an acid trip, and they'll start kicking on the ground or kicking one leg out like sideways. I think they're eating dulcea, the Jimson weed, and getting high off of it. Here's a great book by one of my gateway authors into reading, Ray Bradbury. It's got all his best stuff. It has Martian Chronicles. I've read everything here. Martian Chronicles, Fahrenheit 451, Dandelion Wine, and Something Wicked This Way Comes. he's really a gateway author for me. I think early on I actually didn't read a sci-fi. I think the first story, one of the first ones I read, maybe in sixth grade or so, was Dandelion Wine, which is a kid remembering his fondness of summertime and baseball and things like that. It's a really nice story. And also, I think I read when I was a kid, All Summer in a Day, which arguably sci-fi, but really it's a story again about children. A lot of coming to age stories. He's people that want to learn how to read sci-fi because he's a master of that in fantasy and horror. Really should read Ray Bradbury. I love his writing, and he passed away a couple of years ago. When I read the modern stuff, I'm kind of like, not all of it, but some of it, I'm like, wow, you guys really need to go back and read the masters here. This guy was a master of another sort. Panzram. He was a master of destruction. Boy, this guy. Take a look at this guy in the back here. I mean, it's not good to carry. I mean, I'm a rough-looking character, but I'm a good guy. But this guy was a rough-looking character, and boy, he was rough. I mean, this guy, thank God they have prisons. It's like people always talk about prison reform. Certainly they should reform prisons, but there's some people, like this guy, I mean, he should have never gotten out of prison. He didn't. They hung him I think they hung him at Leavenworth, but he killed a whole slew of people. And this book's really unique because it's his journal of murder. There is a little bit of writing by some sort of sociologist or psychiatrist who is studying him, but the stuff that's interesting in here is his own writing from prison. And he never lied about anything he did. As a matter of fact, he boasted about it, and he'd have a little ha-ha-ha's in there. And he went to Africa just to kill black people. He didn't kill just blacks over there. The first person he killed was a little black child who wanted to be his guide. He becomes a white man from America. He choked him and raped him. And then he got some guys, I think they were Europeans, and went up the river with them and their guide, and he killed all of them. He said, well, we're going to go crocodile hunting, and he ends up killing them and throwing them to crocodiles, and he went back and told everybody they fell in the river. He had all sorts of schemes. He wanted to start a war between us and the British at the time. I think there were some tensions with us in the early 1900s over the maritime laws. They said he had a lot of schemes to start, like mass terror, start wars, and some of it might have worked. This guy was not stupid. When you read his writing, he's sitting in a prison cell with a pencil with no dictionary, and it's no education. I'm reading it. I'm like, boy, some of these philosophical digressions, even though they're twisted, were pretty well written. And he was not stupid. And when you read his story, he's not a whiny, complaining serial killer. He really enjoyed what he did. He liked hurting people, and it's just one of those dark books. If you want to read something dark, it's interesting, to say the least. Here's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I never read this edition, but I read that story when I was younger. It might have been like a for kids edition, a little watered down, so I should really read this. And so it says an unknown 14th century author, a contemporary of Chaucer. I think I read a version of this when I was younger. I have a familiarity with the story, and it's also retold in Le Morte d'Arthur. But I'm gonna read that. I think this was my mother's edition, although I have one as well because there's a bunch of my mother's books around there. It may not be. I see yellow. I usually use yellow as a highlighter. It's either mine or my mother's. This is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawkins, who passed away the last couple of years. Really upset he didn't get the Nobel Prize for the Higgs particle. He should have been in there because I think he actually worked on calculating the energy range that should be in. And one thing that I wonder about, I mean, this is, when you're not as intelligent as somebody, you just don't get it sometimes, is how he was able to do calculations and mathematical manipulation without a pencil and paper or physical tool to move. I mean, I work physics problems for fun at night. I was doing something the other night with Hermitian conjugates and the wave function, and it was linear algebra, abstract algebra. I could not do it in my head. I have to write it on a piece of paper, like the little asterisk and the symbology. How people can do these manipulations in their mind, which I imagine a guy who cannot move his body would have to do. It's amazing to me that he could do it strictly mentally and ever get a number out of it. I imagine he'd speak for the longer calculation, speaking to a computer or something, or have his students do it. But still, it's that guy is absolutely fantastic. Here's the last book. We're going to end up, unfortunately, on a sour note, but no fault of the author. Harper Lee's to Go Set a Watchman, which she was, I believe, in an institution, a retirement home or something when this was put out. She never wanted this published. She never polished it to the maximum, and it was a very crude work. And her estate put it out, I think, just to make a buck, and that's really shameful. her seminal work, To Kill a Mockingbird's a masterpiece. I should have a copy of it lying around here. Don't read that book. It's she would not have wanted published, and I probably donate to the library or throw it out sometime in the future. But somebody might want to read it. At any rate, that's all I have for today, and maybe I'll make another one later on or tomorrow as I keep going along here. Everybody have a good day. Wildman Z out. Take care.